You know we love Ohio on this podcast. We've got two for you. Jerome, one of my favorite stories / favorite players in the NBA. His rough start to the career, to the highs of this Cleveland team, their long-term success, and just talking hoops with Jerome. And Will Howard from Ohio State, the national champs. Post-combine, we'll go over the season and getting ready for his dream to be an NFL quarterback next month. And life advice. He's one of the best stories in the NBA this year. And look, I know he's not the headliner, but he's in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year. And the Cavs are just brilliant. And he's been a lot of fun. It's Jerome. Good morning, man. Thanks for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so what's this season been like for you? Like having this stretch, having this run, putting up real numbers, having a role after some of the early transitions in the league for you?
Yeah, it's kind of like I've always had the vision of who I want to be in this league. And, you deal with some injuries, some trades, all these different things pop up and it kind of derails your vision. And holding that and being able to keeping that belief in yourself until you finally get a consistent opportunity and to see it come to light has been pretty cool. Obviously, there's a million things that I individually still want to accomplish, and as a team, we still want to accomplish. So nobody's doing a victory lap yet, but it's definitely pretty cool just to have that consistent night-to-night role that I've always strived to have.
Let's go through the resume here before the Cleveland part of it. So you're a first-round pick. Were you aware of what was going on with all of the trades? Like, what did you know? Because you were basically traded on draft night, but then I think the Bain deal was already done as well, but then that was announced like a week later.
Yeah, I knew I was going to Phoenix when my name was called. I knew it was Phoenix. Because they traded for the pick before the pick actually occurred.
Okay, all right. So you knew that part of it. You get to Phoenix. What's going through your head on like, all right, how do I fit in? Like, how do I fit in as an NBA player?
I thought it was going to be a great transition, honestly. They signed Ricky Rubio, so I was like, all right, I'll back him up and get used to it. And then I got hurt the day before the first game. Played preseason. Day before the first game, I rolled my ankle pretty bad, like high ankle sprain, and I'm out until like mid-December. And as a rookie, trying to get back and play catch up wasn't easy. And dealing with all that, and Monty Williams was a real old school coach. We didn't exactly see eye to eye, and that didn't help me. So the rookie year was a roller coaster for sure.
Were you surprised he did so well in Detroit? I'll just keep it moving. Keep it moving. It's a small world out there. Yeah. All right. So did you ever get to brag to your friends and be like, well, hey, at least when I was traded for Chris Paul?
No, not really. I was just, it happened so quick though. Like, you go to OKC, which is a great organization. And as you see now, like they put it all together, but we were in the tanking phase. So that's another just like wake up call to what the NBA business is like. Obviously they had their vision, it worked out. And even through the tanking, it was still a great organization, but it's still like, man, we're showing up to lose all these games on purpose. Like it's just another wake up call to what the business is like in the NBA.
All right. So then you're traded again to Houston. You're cut immediately. Golden State picks you up. You have the groin injury. So the two-way expires. And then you sign with Cleveland, in the start of 23. And I want all the listeners to know that. I mean, clearly, your own timeline. But at that point, you're like, man, I won a national championship as a first-round pick. And like, I don't even feel like I've even started. Like that's going to be, was there ever a moment you're like, man, this might not work out?
Yeah, I think you always have that doubt in the back of your mind. I mean, I think as humans, we're always going to have it, right? You could probably relate in your own journey. Like everyone can relate. Or maybe you can't. Maybe you're just always elite. But I think everyone can relate to in their journey at some point of that doubt creeping in. And you just keep going and keep figuring out and keep waiting till like, all right, hopefully, I get this opportunity here. And someone told me, I'll never forget this, is like when you seize opportunity, it multiplies. And the more you take advantage of one opportunity, it becomes two. Then your leash grows longer and your leash grows longer. And I was just finally waiting to just kind of get my foot in the door. I always knew like what I'd be able to do. And I still feel that same way about like how much I can improve.
I was talking to a player the other night. I can't name him because it was just, somebody that had a mutual friend, and we were talking, and I was really happy for him because, he's a real guy now, right? Like, he's a real guy. And I look at you now and it's like, whatever this is, and I don't want to get into Cleveland in this awesome season and your teammates and that kind of stuff, but like, this has proved that you're a real guy. And for him, it was opportunity where they couldn't bench him anymore. They couldn't bench him because everybody was hurt. And so here's your situation where it's not because everybody's hurt. Your team is incredibly deep, but it's very clear that Atkinson now trusts you in February and in going into March, maybe even more so than he did at the beginning of the year. So what is that leash thing you're talking about is a very real thing in basketball where those are your minutes, those are your possessions. It must just make you a better basketball player because you're not thinking about all the shit you've been thinking about for years.
You couldn't have said it better. I think there's a million guys in the NBA and there's a bunch of guys not in the NBA that if you said, hey, I'm going to give you 20 minutes every single night, here's the ball in your hands, they can go get you 13 points a game. The hard part about the NBA is figuring out how to stay resilient and stay confident until that happens. You know what I mean? Like, can you get thrown in for a game and make your first shot? Like, that's the mental hurdle of kind of establishing yourself as a player. And I don't think it ever ends, right? Because you're always trying to get to a new level. And to get to the next level, it's the same thing. Like, people probably look now to, all right, if I was playing 30 minutes, I could do X, Y, and Z. But you can't really ask for a role increase until you master where you're at. And that's the mental hurdle of kind of any profession, but especially in sports.
All right, let's talk about your game, man, because it is different. And I know you were smaller, and then I think I see like the smaller kid playing in a 6'4", 6'5" body now, So I think the other part for you is that when you were being evaluated as a draft pick, you're kind of like, all right, is he going to beat people off the dribble? How's he going to play defense? Like the same stuff that happens to anyone that you're like a little afraid of athletically. Cause I don't mind when GMs are kind of athlete snobs about it, cause it's like, look, if I'm going to screw up, I'd rather screw up with the athlete than everybody being like, how did you pick the non-athlete here? But athleticism is different. There are plenty of guys that can jump out of the gym and have these explosive traits. But when I think about like your approach, and I want you to try to make this sound better than I'm going to, but I think the thing that I love the most about your game is that I feel like every decision option is open later to you than most players. So when you drive it, you're still not 100% sure if you're going to hit the floater, if you're going to pull up. I think you keep passing options open later. It's a bit like a quarterback who, some guys want to get rid of the ball at a certain time, and other quarterbacks will see a receiver being like, if I can just give him another beat, he might have a little bit more separation. So like you had a pass last night where Mitchell was cold. He hit the three after it had been swung to him, but you started the action by like swinging it out to somebody that I don't know a lot of other guards would have even seen. Now I know in the NBA too, like the spacing rules, you're just like, hey, make sure you stay in your spot. Because I'll see some Luka passes, right, where people are like, I can't believe you found him in the corner. It's like, well, look, it's an awesome pass, but he also knows that person has to be glued to the corner.
Throw it to the corner.
Right. Throw it to the corner. So I'm kind of just sitting here glazing your game, but it's this thing where everyone I notice, like on these drives against bigger athletic players, they're just so unsure about what it is that you're going to do that now you have this advantage. I think just the way you see the game that other people don't have, and it makes defenders incredibly uncomfortable. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think it's a few things, right? And there's a lot of guys I watch and I study. Like I always try to watch like Jalen Brunson play and Luka play and Cade play, because those are guys where when they touch the paint, and I try to pride myself on this too, like you said, you don't know exactly what you're going to do yet. And I feel like defenders get real antsy when you touch the paint. So as soon as you're in there, they're ready to jump or swipe or reach or foul. And then when you're off the ball and someone's in the paint, you're worried about, all right, do I help? What do I do? And so if you go fast, and I don't have the luxury of going fast, So it's really not by choice for me. But if you go fast, you kind of run out of options, right? Because like you're speeding to the basket, you might have one pass you can make, or you can go finish. When I'm kind of going slower at my own pace, it's like I really have every option. I can dribble all back out if I want. I can stop. I can start. I can stop off two. Stop off one. You can stop and make a pass. And like I think Luke is the best at it in the world. His whole go slow and they take one step, look around, take another step, and he might lob it, throw it to the opposite corner, like stuff like that. I think it starts with your pace. Because if you go super fast, you run out of options very quickly.
Do you notice people trying to figure out, like, because your wrong foot stuff, like I remember the first time I realized it with Nash, and you'd be like, how was that look clean? How was the defender late? And it's like, oh, he's going wrong foot all the time now. So as the defender's trying to time up his movement, he's already a beat ahead because he was kind of wrong footing a lot of this different stuff. Are you noticing guys? I mean, does anybody get frustrated with you being like, I can't believe that shit worked?
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a funny story? Is there a good story in that?
No, it's a fight. The best story is just when I get foul calls. People hate that. You know what I mean? Like if I have a game where I shoot 6+, 8+ free throws, other team is furious. Like how I'm getting fouled because it looks so crazy. You know what I mean? This guy's like walking his way to the lane and like shooting off one leg and the refs are calling foul. Like it looks so crazy. But if you watch the NBA, it's like those are the fouls people call. Like just because I might do it slower or differently, like if people get those calls every night and other team is furious about that, like constantly.
I've noticed a couple times, like, Brunson's incredible. And all these guys are the same in this, like, and Trey has it too. It's like you get some of the most ridiculous calls. And then when you get called for a foul, you're going to be mad about this. And I've made the joke that I think cornerbacks would be the worst boyfriends because they would just be like, it wasn't my fault. When I look at some of the basketball
I think all
guys,
athletes fit into that.
like imagine getting in an argument with Jalen Brunson about something at home. Like, how come you didn't do this around the house? Like, would he be like, hey, that's fair? And I've had, you've done some good things. Like sometimes I'll look at guys that just live at the free throw line and they're terrific scorers. So it's not like they're just doing it with free throws. It's like, how do you not have any self-awareness that like you're so far up in the game that you can't maybe lose a 50-50 call with this? But again, that's just sort of my own rant. Yeah, I don't know that there's a question in there.
I mean, you're right. You're right. Because I'm guilty of that every night. So you're right. Like if I don't get every single call, I'm complaining. And it's not even on purpose. It's just like heat of the moment, like you're fired up. It's not even on purpose. Afterwards, I'm like, Jesus, that was bad of me.
Do you notice that as you become more comfortable and start putting up bigger numbers, you're like, maybe I can complain a little bit more?
No, I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. I just got a fine the other day, so it's.
I know you did, but see, that's when I feel like I notice a player's full comfort level. But then again, there'll be a guy who'll be like the fourth center on a team where I have to look up where he went to college again, and he's in the game for 2 minutes, and then he's talking to the ref as he's getting ready to take the free throw, and I'm like, dude, you never play. And like you're gonna. So anyway, whatever. That's just kind of what the league is now. Let's get to the Cavs.
But I feel.
All right. We'll go because I don't want to not get to some of this Cavs stuff. That's awesome. I love watching you guys. I love the depth, and I think my favorite part is. It's funny because sometimes people are like, oh, they don't know who they are yet, or they don't know what their rotation is. I love it. I love that you guys can change who you are, especially with the Hunter part of it, splitting the bigs. The minutes that you've had off the bench, clearly I'd have a hard time believing you're closing playoff games with the two guards that you have. But what do you see firsthand being around this team as far as your adaptability to an opponent?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is everyone buying in because there's nights where we don't finish the game with Jared Allen, who's I think should have been an all-star this year. And he's making whatever, close to 100, if not, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's around there. And he's been, extremely consistent for us. And he could easily throw a fit when he doesn't finish the game. I had a lot of teammates that would do that in the past. And this year, you don't see any of that from anybody. You know what I mean? And we go 10 deep, 11 deep, we can go 12, 13 deep on some nights. You know what I mean? So nobody complaining, nobody throwing a fit. That's what allows us to do that, because everyone's just like, all right, my number is called. I got to go impact the game. And it starts with everyone's attitude there. And then from there, it's the top guys like Donovan, Deep, Darius, and Evan. Their selflessness and ability to like let everyone else do their thing is really helpful for us as collectively too. Because then it comes down to the game, and you can't go double because they're willing to make the pass. You know what I mean? And then someone else might have 15 already. Do you want to leave him open? You know what I mean? So it's just the ability of us to remain selfless, and it starts with our top guys, obviously, because you go how they go. So that's really what I think the biggest thing with us is.
Who do you think you match up better against, Boston or OKC?
I think they present real different challenges. I think that the difference. Ooh, that's tough. That's real tough. Hopefully, we get to see both.
Yeah, I'm surprised you've even pretended you were going to answer this long, because I figured that would just be like, no way, I'm not giving you that. Because if you pick one, then it means the other one's going to be like, all right, they're afraid of us. All right, let's look at it this way. When you were down 25-3 at Boston just a week ago, what was it like when you're looking up and you're like, it's already 25-3? You come back. I think it says a lot about this group to come back and win that game. Sure, Boston missed a couple main starters and everything, but give me a sense of what it was like for this group being down that big to a team that you have to go through to win the East.
There was really no panic. I mean, you're right. We do have to go through them to win the East, and they're the defending champs, and they're a great team, rightfully so. They should be the favorites until someone knocks them off. I get all that, but at the end of the day, for us, it really was another game. Like, yes, you get so excited for those games because you're going into Boston. But at the end of the day, it's really just one of 82. So there really was no panic for us. We're sitting there like they've made every single three, and we've missed every single three. Like, I think realistically, the score should have been like 16-10 at that point. You know what I mean? So it's just, you look at the game like that, and still 7 minutes left in the first quarter. So much game left to be played, and you see that all the time. And again, you go up 20 early, and usually by halftime, it's a new game. So there's really never really any panic with this group. And I think that starts with obviously our coaching staff and our players.
Do you and Sam Merrill, friend of the pod, do you laugh when you're playing the top two positions of a zone and the other team comes down being like, we are about to light this fucking crew up?
Yeah, man, Sam's one of our defenders.
That's what I'm saying. But like, even Dean Wade, Jalen got him in a switch, and then Dean held up and made him take like a 17-foot fadeaway from the baseline in that game. And I was like,
I think we're getting borderline racist here, bro. I think we're just calling out all the white guys now. All right? Because Dean Wade is an elite defender, and I think
I'm not hunting him. I'm not asking for the switch. I'm observing. Look, as a guy who's watched Sam Hauser develop over it. I mean, look, but I've noticed. Yeah, it was funny though. Like in the Orlando game, like you were playing at the top with Sam, and I'm thinking, like, okay, are they going to take are they going to take bad shots because they're like, oh, these two dudes are at the top of the zone, and then they still didn't score again? That might be more of an Orlando thing than it is about you and Sam being Pippen and Jordan.
Bro, you're gonna get someone into trouble on this podcast. Man. You got to chill.
All right. Let me ask you this. I think it's the coolest thing ever that you played with Donovan. Oh, you were 8 years old?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, just to be playing with him in the NBA now, like, what's that like? Do you ever have a moment with him? Like, clearly you probably get each other, I don't know if he's your closest friend on the team, but like, that's some crazy, like, sleepover type shit right there.
Yeah, no lie. We talk about it randomly, like something will come up randomly, like we'll see someone will post about it, and we're just like, that really is crazy. Like, it's wild. And our AAU team, like some other guys, like Eric Pascal was on that team, and some other guys that went Division I. So we look back on it, now we're on the same NBA team. Like that really is crazy. And then I got my college teammate with me too. So this year has been pretty special for sure.
What do you think your best, like, we need a bucket? Like, this is the thing I trust the most. Is it just Mitchell attacking or Mitchell turning down? I think he turns down the screen better than anybody with the ball in his hands right now, too, by the way.
Yeah, his reject and how explosive he is downhill is just like once he gets you on his hip, it's over. So I think as soon as I think you obviously got that. Playing through Evan this year has been a great answer for us. And then, we got an all-star point guard right next to Donovan too. So you really can't go wrong. And then we added Dre, who can play out of the high post. That have been a lot of people in the NBA. So we really got a lot of options. But yeah, I'm really not mad at any of that. The ball's in Donovan's hands, Darius's hands, like Evan's hands. We're gonna get something good 99% of the time.
How has Mobley improved? We can look at numbers, we can look at all that different stuff. If you watch him enough, I think there's a comfort level with him. But what did you see kind of coming into this year with him? Because he's at another level now.
I would say I don't know. This is an agenda that we can maybe push on here. Like, how is he not the front runner for most improved player? Can he get that and defensive player of the year? Can he get both?
He can. Yeah.
Because I don't see how he's not most improved. Like last year, he wasn't doing any of this besides playing defense. Like, his three ball wasn't really reliable. This is not a knock on Evan last year. It's just how much he improved. Like, he's pushing the break this year. He's throwing lobs. He's catching lobs. Like, how many people are really doing that in the league? And I don't understand how he's not. If Norman Powell doesn't play 65 games, I don't understand how he's not the front runner for most improved. But yeah, to answer your question, he's like a new player offensively. He's bringing the ball up for us now. Last year, he sat in the corner of the dunker. So he's a completely new player.
What was it like for you to go from, the UVA years where I probably first fell in love with your game and, realizing like Tony's just somebody, if you love basketball, even though I know you guys got dumped on a lot for the pace and how few points you scored. But like, even going back to Washington State, I was like, I really like this guy. Like, I like the way his teams play and all that kind of stuff. To be the 116 matchup that loses and then come back and win a national title in that overtime game against Texas Tech over those 12 months, like, was it a mad group? Was it a mature group? Because I almost feel like that story gets lost in just the shuffle of all the information. To be the laughingstock of college basketball, to be national champs 12 months later and be part of that team. What do you think about the most over the course of that year?
I think it was a mix of everything. I think you feel every emotion over the course of that year. Like, you feel the embarrassment. You feel you're the laughingstock of college basketball for the entire summer. You know that. And then it becomes a mad group. Then it becomes an anxious group because now nothing you do in a regular season almost matters. So you feel every emotion. And I think it was, if we have any other coach other than Tony Bennett trying to do that, it becomes really hard because he kind of set the blueprint of exactly how to act on the court, off the court, and real easy guy to follow, like through adversity. So he kind of set the way for us, and all you had to do was buy in. He's a special guy right there.
Did he have to address it at the first practice or whatever your first? Because I know there's some informal, formal stuff. Did he have to go, all right, let's just talk about this now?
Yeah, no, we talked about it all summer. It was like, where did we go wrong? Because that really wasn't the first time that was the most embarrassing time. But UVA was never been successful in the tournament under him. You know what I mean? So I think after a while, it's like, okay, what do we got to do? Like, what's going on here? Because it happens once. It's like, all right, single elimination, March Madness. You point the finger towards the other team got lucky. Then it happens twice. Then it happens 3 times. It's like, okay, why can't he be successful in March? So I think we made some adjustments offensively, and I think it's because of that. Like, we watched this TED talk that he showed us, and it was about adversity, and the whole quote was, "It can buy you a ticket to a place that you couldn't have been without it if you use it the right way. Let it fuel you, and you learn from it, and all that." I think that's what he did. Like, you hit rock bottom, and at this point, okay, I have to change. Like, if I don't change now, like if you lose in the Sweet 16, you probably just run it back. But that embarrassing loss, like, okay, we have to change, we have to adjust, and that's what he did.
I'm really happy for you. I know this has been a rough start to a career. And for those of us that just, I don't know, man, there's just something about your game that I appreciate so much. And I think there's a lot of people that grew up with basketball. And, my dad was my coach when I was a little kid and all that. I don't know what it is, but your story and your success this year puts a smile on a lot of basketball fans' faces. So thanks for the time today. And I can't wait to see where this goes, man.
I really appreciate that, man. Thanks.
You can cash in on Ballin' Out with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because every Friday night, The Ringer is teaming up with FanDuel to give all customers a 30% profit boost when you pick a player to score more than 30 points. So now a big game for them means an even bigger payout for you. Honestly, I think there's one major option here, and it's SGA going up against Portland. Look at these scoring numbers. He was 32 points per game in February, but if you go back to the Minnesota game, the one that they won on the front end of the back-to-back, 37, 39, 27, 31, 31, 51, 41 last night against Memphis. So if you want to make this easy, because it's hard out there, gang, and you get the 30% boost. I mean, I was looking at DeRozan, maybe just because he was so brilliant in the loss against Denver, and try to do something a little bit different. But let's not be cute about this. SGA is on an absolute tear. I think the only concern here is, are they going to potentially be up big on Portland, who's, again, been better in the second half of the season? Are they going to be up on them so much that they decide, you know what, let's shut him down when he has 24 some point in the third quarter? FanDuel is the home for all of your favorite prop bets. So whether you want to ride with my pick or make your own, just look for 30 on 30 in the FanDuel Sportsbook app, or head to FanDuel.com/Ryen, Ryen, for your chance to score a bigger payout this Friday night. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. He is a national champ. He's one of the best stories in college football, and he's getting ready to become an NFL quarterback. The draft just over a month away. It's Will Howard of Ohio State. Thanks for joining us, man. What's going on?
How are you, man? Ryan, I appreciate you having me on.
So let's talk about the combine. Is it fun? Is the process fun?
It is. It's fun because I enjoy talking football, and I think the interviews are, some of the most stressful parts of it. And for me, I enjoyed it. I love doing that. I love talking ball. There's only so much, physically that you're doing. You're only doing the one workout day. So physically, it's not super taxing, but mentally, it's really long. The medical days, they're the worst. They suck. But everything other than that, I mean, it's a cool experience, and I tried to make the best of it. And even though it's long and tiring, it's I enjoyed it and got to see a bunch of guys I haven't seen in a while.
This isn't so much just the cliche question of what's the weirdest question somebody asks you, the team, but I imagine when it's the team that's really into your football acumen and asking you about situations, that has to be something for a guy that's played as well as you've played and played as long as you have in college. That has to be the best part, right? When you're sitting there with dudes that you're watching on Sundays roam the sidelines, asking you what you see and how you play the position, I imagine, right? That has to be so much fun.
Absolutely. And it's a time for me to show my ability to, process and to read defenses and what I see out there. And, I'm able to kind of give them what I'm thinking. And I felt super prepared going into that process. I knew that anything they threw at me, whether it was installing a play at the beginning of the meeting and having me come back and shoot it back to them at the end, or whether it's asking me, what's your favorite third down and long play, whatever it was, I was really prepared for it. And I felt like I did really well in the interview process. And, I think that's where my game really stands out, and where I can really thrive is, my ability to process, my ability to, regurgitate, whatever I was doing, and my ability to recall. All that kind of stuff is kind of one of the strength points of my game. So I want to make sure I showed that. And I think I did a pretty good job of it.
Are you frustrated by draft coverage that seems to put a ceiling on where you could go?
I mean, yeah, I definitely I think I take everything and just use it as a chip, man. And I feel like I've been doing that really my whole career. That's kind of been the story of my career is, I've kind of been overlooked. I've been, kind of that underdog guy. I wasn't necessarily probably the hottest commodity in the transfer portal when I went to Ohio State. Guys are saying, they should have gotten this guy and this guy. But, I came in and I said, I want to prove them right for picking me. And I want to prove those people that said that wrong. And, when I went to K-State, I was a 3-star guy. I wasn't really expected to do anything crazy. And I ended up playing as a true freshman and, winning a Big 12 championship. And, I feel like the story of my career is kind of proving people wrong. So, I love that. I love where I'm at in the process. I think me being a guy who can kind of fly under the radar right now, and then hopefully, all you need is one team to fall in love with you, man. And I just want to prove to all these teams that, I have what it takes. And I feel like, I'm one of the most NFL ready guys that there is. I've seen a lot in my college career, and I feel like I'm really well prepared, and I think I process the game better than anyone. So I think for me, I'm confident in myself. I know there's a ton of other really talented guys in this draft class, and I'm not going to say anything about them, but I believe in myself, man, and I think that whoever wants to pick me is getting a winner, man, and they're not going to regret it.
Let's go back to college. How close was it to potentially being some other place than Ohio State in the transfer portal for you?
Yeah, it was coming out of my last year at K-State. Like, I knew I wanted a new challenge and something to kind of, my eventual goal was to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I knew to make that step, I wanted to improve my draft stock. And I felt like where my draft stock was coming out of my last year at K-State, it just didn't really match where I felt like my talent level was. And, I was getting told, you're a day 3 guy, you're an undrafted guy. And, I had one more year eligibility left. And I said, if I feel like there's a place that I can really improve my game and compete for a national championship, those were the 2 things I was telling schools was, it's not about NIL. It's not about, going somewhere where it's a guaranteed start. No, like I want to go somewhere where I feel like I can develop as a quarterback and improve my draft stock and compete for a national championship. And when it kind of came down to it, it was really Miami, USC, Ohio State, and then the draft. And, Miami had a favorable schedule. They had a really good offense, able to sling the ball around. But I just felt like at the end of the day, it wasn't the right place for me. USC, the draw was Lincoln. I really wanted to play. I felt like, he's one of the most elite quarterback developers and thought that was really good. And maybe if I had like 2 or 3 years of eligibility left, I'd go there. But, for a 1-year plug and play kind of deal, nothing came close to Ohio State. And I felt like when I started talking to Coach Day, and Coach Day says, we believe that you're the guy that can come in here and lead us to a national championship. And that was all I needed, man. I needed a chance. And, I took it and ran with it. They didn't guarantee me anything. They didn't say you're for sure going to be the starter, but, they said like, listen, we believe in you and we want you to be the guy. And that's all I needed.
So, I watched you at K-State and I got why they would want to go in another direction after what was going on last year, quarterback. But it was kind of tough for you in a way, because it's like now Kyle's lighting it up at Syracuse, and what your fan base is like. What did the Oregon game? I know it's a loss and you're supposed to win every game, and the standard was this loaded team over the course of the summer, and the standard is only a national championship. So maybe your answer is going to be like, hey, we're Ohio State and we lost to Oregon, so we can't have that happen. I loved you in that game. So I don't know, like there was a turning point, at least for me, of what I thought you were capable of. Was there any moment for you, even with a loss, maybe a couple days removed from the emotion of that last series, where it actually helped you?
I think, there's some truth to that for sure. Like, I think, I played one of my better games of the season that day. And, it was just the way that it ended, was poor. And, I think I'm my own biggest critic, man. And I, sitting there after that game, it didn't matter if I was 100% completion percentage and threw for, 8 touchdowns. If we don't win the game, I'm not going to be satisfied. And, I remember going around the locker room and telling every single guy, man, like, hey, I'm sorry, man. I should have, and every single guy, like to a T, looked at me and said, it's not your fault. It's not any one person's fault. Like, you balled out, you did your thing. And I think that was a real big moment for us as a team. Me, obviously, I believe in myself, and I feel like I'm a pretty confident guy. I feel like in order to be a quarterback, especially at this level and on this stage, you have to have that intrinsic confidence that comes from yourself and not from anyone else, and I think I've built that over my career. And so, yeah, I definitely, felt like I played a good game, but it ate at me for sure. That was a tough one. And it felt like, I just, as good as I played, we didn't finish it the right way. So I knew that we were going to get another crack at him, man. And I knew we were going to make it count. But that one definitely stung. It definitely hurt. And, like you said, when you're at Ohio State, you can't have bad days and you can't lose games. But thankfully with the 12 team playoff this year, we're able to still make it in there and run the table and do our thing.
Did the Michigan loss help you win a national championship?
That's a great question. I think it definitely unlocked something inside of us that, turned us loose. And, I think the adversity that we went through in that game and after that game and what we had to kind of push through it. I don't want to say, I don't know if it for sure helped us, but it definitely gave us a spark, man. And it gave us, something to really, really cling to. And really at that point, all we had was each other. And it was really the Woody versus the world, man. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on outside the Woody. And
I mean, it must have been awful.
It wasn't fun, man. And you come to Ohio State to beat those guys. And, for me, it hurt. I got one chance at that game. Obviously I got knocked up in the first half and, I probably wasn't 100%, but shoot, like only God himself could have taken me out of that game. Like you get one chance to play the team up north. And man, it was just a bad day. It was just a bad day for us. And, we can't have that. And, as much as, it felt like the world was collapsing around us. And, it really felt like we were all we had at that moment. And I think that helped us because it was kind of a us versus the world kind of mentality. And we came out there and we said, we can make this thing right. In previous years, we'd be out of this thing and we'd be sitting at home and not having anything to do, but, sit around and think about this game. But this year, we have, God bless us with an opportunity to go out there and right the wrong and win a national championship. And, I think, I don't know if it was the reason, but I think it definitely contributed to, that spark that we needed, going into the playoffs.
I guess I just try to think back, like I never did anything that was as important to that many people as playing quarterback for Ohio State. And you are kind of adopted by this community, and you can understand, based on perception, like what that game means. And then of course you have Coach Day's recent run against them and everything that happens after the game. And then I'm watching it going like, if I were on that team, like, would it be hey, roommates only? Like no one can come to our apartment. No one can come to our house. I don't want to answer the phone. Like, I don't know what to do. What's class going to be like? Do I even want to go on Monday?
Yeah.
It's just like, look, you guys have great deals. You have great setups. Everybody would trade places for you, but that's just a very, very young age to feel like your own, like the community around you that's supposed to be there and have your back is actually turning on you as everybody else has already turned on you. Like that's a lot, man.
It is. But, I knew what I was stepping into. And, I remember when I was going through the portal process, I think it was my mom. She was like, are you sure about this? Like this, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of expectations. And, Ohio State fans, they can turn nasty if they don't like you. I grew up an Eagles fan. It's the same deal. They love you hard when you're winning, but they can turn against you pretty quick. And, I understand because they're passionate, man. They want to see their Buckeyes win, and I get it. And I really, what I kept saying was, listen, I want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I wanted to go to a place where I felt like I was getting that pro ready kind of deal. And I think stepping into Ohio State, I looked at it as I was going into a pro setting and I was going to be a franchise quarterback, and that's, Columbus, Ohio, all we have is the Buckeyes, man. So I looked at that as hey, I'm going into a pro setting and I'm learning how to deal with this as a franchise guy. And, so that the first time I go into an NFL locker room, it's not, the first time I'm dealing with it on a national stage and on a, in terms of a scrutiny and, you want to talk about getting all the glory and all the praise. I mean, get way too much of it, especially as a quarterback, but especially as a quarterback at Ohio State.
There's actually a very good chance that half the teams you could go to potentially in the NFL, the pressure is not going to be the same as going into that game and after. But I'll say that. You don't have to say that. The rematch with Oregon, I mean, just maybe the best half of football you're ever going to see. You guys are rolling. Do you think it's the same game against Oregon without the one in your back pocket?
I said in that first game, I think if we play on a neutral field, I think, it's a different story. I think definitely the environment played into it. We had a lot of false start penalties, kind of just self-inflicted wounds that I think, we were a little overcome by events and the atmosphere and the environment a little bit. And that, that's a collective effort. That's me included. Like, I think coming out of that game, we knew that we should have beat those guys. And we knew that if we got another chance at them, we didn't have to make it close. And, obviously I didn't know it was going to be 34-0 before halftime, but, I knew that coming into that game, I felt really, really good about our game plan. We were going to be aggressive. I mean, the first play of the game, Coach Kelly's calling the smoke, screen and go. Like from that moment, I was like, okay, we're here to we're not here to just win. We're here to blow these guys out. And I think it was, we just were able to take over. Our defense did their thing, man. Like that's an explosive offense that they were going against. And for them to have 8 sacks on DG and, that explosive offense to be able to hold them to, only even 21 points. But I mean, really it was probably, we knew they were going to eventually come back and start scoring and doing their thing. But I mean, our defense played an unbelievable game. And that first half was, like you said, like one of the best halves of football I've ever been a part of, comprehensively, all 3 phases. And we knew going into that game, we had a chip on our shoulder that we didn't feel like they had. And I think definitely that first game, the revenge thing plays into it a little bit. But I always say, man, it's really, really hard to beat a team twice, especially a team like us.
Yeah, I mean, you rolled through Tennessee, who looked like they wanted nothing to do with that game. It's a blowout against the number 1 team in the country in the first half. The funny thing about the Texas score, and then before the Jack Sawyer recovery, you're like, how is Texas in this game? What were those conversations like on the sideline? Is it felt like every time you looked up, you're like, oh, it's 2nd and 22 again. Like that's the story of that game outside of the scores. What, 5 straight possessions where you're looking at the down and distance going, we're just killing ourselves right now.
That's the thing is, coming out of that game and really in the middle of that game, it's like, they're not stopping us. We're stopping ourselves right now. And it's these self-inflicted wounds that are, killing us. And, it's deflating a little bit. And you feel like it's just like, man, like we just keep getting ourselves in these situations, but it's also, it's kind of a positive. And what I kept saying to everyone is like, they are not stopping us. It's not anything that they're doing. It's us hurting ourselves. It's holding penalties. It's false start penalties. It's, personal fouls, all these things that are backing us up behind the sticks. And, I think that's a little, something you can kind of cling to and be like, hey man, like it's not them, it's us. Like if we fix what we're doing and we go down and do what we have to do, like, I mean, we went down on the first drive and scored. I mean, like it was no big deal. And we knew it was going to be more of a methodical game and they weren't going to let us hit the shots like we did against Oregon. They were just not that kind of defense. They were a deep zone kind of playing defense, and they played the shell over top and they wanted to bring some, two simulated pressures. And that's kind of what they did. And we knew it was, we were going to have to march the ball down the field methodically. And obviously, that fourth quarter drive that we had to go down and score and make it, 21-14, that was huge. I think that touchdown right before half to Trey was unbelievably big. I mean, that was just a crazy play. Like you're going out there and in that situation and we're saying like, hey, we're going to, we did the same thing against Tennessee. Hey, we're going to either run the ball, run a screen right here, see what we get. And if we, get into a deal where we get a first down, we can start the 2-minute drill. But if not, maybe we'll take a knee. It was kind of one of those deals like, hey, we'll see how this first play goes. And then there goes 32, screaming down the sideline. And it was a different game than the first 2 for sure. But, when it came down to it, we said we were going to have to win the game in the fourth quarter. And we did just that.
The Notre Dame game had an interesting, like each game has its own feel to it.
Yeah.
Right? And the score can say something, but you're like, okay, but who do you actually feel better about? You're big favorites in that game, but then it's like, is Notre Dame back in this thing? And then it's 3rd and 11 and you've got number 4 one-on-one. Take us through, because you take the one-on-one shot, which I think, even though it's a 3rd and 11, it's 3rd and long here. With him, it's like, hey, that's always going to be the best look I have. Take me through what the call was, walking up to the line of scrimmage, seeing that coverage, and just all of the things that transpired before that conversion that basically seals it.
Yeah, man. So that I mean, I love talking about that play. That's one of my
biggest
favorites.
Smile
from
on
the
his
year.
face, right?
Yeah, man, that one triggers a good memory for me. So, first of all, we go out there and we were kind of in a 4-minute drill kind of mode. So we're trying to run the ball. I think Coach Day wanted to call that play earlier on in the drive, and Coach Kelly was like, "Let's see if we can get some with the run. Let's push it. And see what we can get with the run." And we obviously got stuffed twice, and it's like 3rd and 11. And then we knew we had that play in on 3rd and extra long because we had seen guys that hit some go balls against them, and it was quite literally, we call it grill. Grill means go balls on either side, mirrored go balls. And Emeka has a middle read route inside where he can take the middle if it opens up to too high, and he can break it off like a basic. If it's one high, it's called, dose left was our formation, our 2x2 deal. And we had a 73 protection. So a 7-man protection. So, I mean, we were saying, hey, we're going to block this thing up and we're freaking launching, and I looked out to the boundary, and Carnell had a little tighter coverage, and 29 was off and soft to the field. And he was like damn near looking right at me. And I was like, all right, I think this is the time to let this thing rip. And, Emeka had said on the sideline, he's like, when 29's inside leverage, like, we got to take advantage of it. And all week I knew, 29 and 15, if I had my choice, I was going at 29, and he was out there on an island. I knew they were probably going to be bringing some sort of pressure. I mean, we had it blocked up because we had the 7-man protection called, 73 grill, and I'm taking my 3-step and a hitch and putting it on a cone, man. And number 4 is going to be there every single time. And I mean, that was electric, man. I was so fired up that they called that because, in that situation, man, I want the ball in my hands to seal the game. And I love it, man. Bring it on and throw a freaking go ball to number 4 to seal the natty. That was, I mean, poetic.
Do you wish you could take number 4 with you?
I'd take everybody on that damn team with me if I could, but number 4 is he's special, man. He's going to be something else. And for the fact that he's as young as he is doing what he did this year, I mean, he's only getting better from where he's at right now, and he's truly one of one.
I want to ask you another question because I think we might be aligned on this.
Mm-hmm.
The Indiana game, and I'll speak for myself here.
Mm-hmm.
I love college football. I think you should have to beat one good team to play for a national championship. That's me saying that. Don't add anything to that, Will. So it came up a lot, right? I'm an opinionist. I got 3 shows a week. So I started digging through the schedule. I was like, man, I don't know. I was like, hey, we'll see what happens against Ohio State. So yes, the Hoosier thing annoyed me at times. So when they were playing you guys, there's the 7.5-minute drive that takes 15 plays. And at that point, the score kind of looks like 31-15, even though the game was just not close. I mean, look, they came down the field, scored. You guys had weird bad starts all year. You were slow to start.
Yeah.
So they're up 7-0, and then it's just nothing from them the entire time until they get that touchdown. And then Trevion takes a knee at the 1, which I'm sure he was like, hey, could somebody have told me we were going for the touchdown so I could have run it in? You get that last touchdown to make the score 38-15. Were you guys on the sideline during their 7.5-minute drive going like, are they just trying to make the score look good? And did you decide collectively, like, you know what, we're putting another 7 on these guys? Because it seemed to be kind of nasty with a team that, look, I understand why Indiana was very excited about their season. They have no history. This was incredible for them. And they were a good football team. They weren't great.
Yeah.
They were a good football team. Good for them. But there seemed to be a bit of like, you caught some heat for it, but I also think I understood what you were doing. And when you guys decided to punch it in to make it 38, I'm like, I think I've never been more aligned with Ohio State football than right now.
Man, I'd love to say we were sitting there talking about it during the drive, but we really weren't. We were, we knew we had won the game already, so we were kind of not really worried about it. But they went down and they scored, and then they went for 2, which kind of was like, all right, what are we doing, guys? And Coach Signetti, a lot of respect for him. With what he did with Indiana and turning that program around. I think he is great. He definitely talked a little bit of trash going into that game, and he was. I know Coach Day had his feelings about it, and when Trey went down at the 1, Coach Day came into the huddle, and that was an executive decision. He was like, we're scoring right here. If they want to score to fluff up the points, we're going to do the same thing. So, Coach Day says what you ask for, you deserve. And I feel like at that point in time, it was, it wasn't like a big, shove it to you moment. It was more of just like, hey, you guys wanted to do it, so we'll do it too. But obviously all class from Trey going down at the one. But I'll be the bad guy if I need to be, man, and run in. And we were all fired up, man. And it was, obviously a big game, a top 5 matchup, and they were a good team. Don't get me wrong. Like, they were a solid team. I think Curtis is a really good player. The fact that he was playing on a torn ACL all year is crazy. And I think, they had a solid defense. I think that CJ West kid's a phenomenal player. And I think they did some really good things. And I think, they deserve to have the season that they did. But, when you play the Buckeyes, it's a little different. So, we kind of had our way to end that thing. And, it was no harm meant. It was just a little firing us up, man.
I think you guys felt good about that last touchdown. Based on going back and watching that game. All right. I know I could ask it this way, like, hey, what is an NFL team getting when they're getting Will Howard? I think listening to the last 25 minutes, we're getting a guy that's mature, that's tough, that's been in huge games. And if I ask you, what do you want out of an NFL team? You're going to say, hey, I want to go to a team. I don't care. But, like, is there any part of this that you can share with us? Any part of the process of, like, this is kind of how I see once I'm drafted next month. This is kind of like what I could see as the perfect timeline for me getting this career going.
It's a good question, man. And it, it's going to look different. I don't know where I'm going to end up, what team I'm going to be on, what the situation's going to be, but whatever it is, I'm going to be ready for it. And I'm going to attack it, 100%. And I've always been a person that I don't do things half-assed, man. Like, when I went to Ohio State, I actually caught some flack for, like, this guy's, like, acting like he's been a Buckeye forever, and, like, I'm like, guys, like, I'm here for a year. Like, I might as well, I'm not going half-assed, I'm not going to just act like I don't care about this place. Like, I decided to be an Ohio State Buckeye. Like, I'm going to do it full force. And, like, I'm going to go all out for my guys and for the team. And, they believed in me. I believe in them, and I want to be a part of this. And that's how I feel going into my NFL locker room. Whatever the situation is, I don't care if, I go to a place that has an older veteran starter. Obviously, ideally, I'd love to go in and play right away, but you never know. And that was my plan at Kansas State, and I wanted to go play as soon as I could. And I was probably played a little earlier than I was ready for, but I think a lot of the things that I learned from Skylar Thompson and from Adrian Martinez were really good for my career and really big for me as I got better as a quarterback. And I leaned back on a lot of those lessons that I learned from the guys ahead of me, and I think that there's certainly some good things to that. And I think, whether I go into a situation where there is a veteran guy, I'll definitely embrace it. And, I'll be ready for whatever the challenge is, but I'm going to be ready to compete and trying to play as soon as I can, wherever I'm at. I want to contribute and be a part of the team's success. And, I'm a team guy, man. Like, I just want to go in and create some great relationships and prove that, they can trust me and count on me when the lights are on.
I can't wait for this moment for you, for anybody that grows up, hoping to actually be one of those names called. So enjoy it, man, and excited about what's next. Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you having me, man.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com is the email. Kyle Cerruti, Oregon. A couple feedback pieces here. 6'6" is the perfect height. No basketball comp, played volleyball in high school and university. 6'4", 250, currently in the pursuit of the pinnacle of calisthenic fitness, the muscle up. So a 6'4" guy saying that 6'6" is the perfect height. So a non-self-interest bias here. I wish I was taller so there was never any doubt that you're the tallest. A real alpha.
Okay.
At 6'4", typically you're always the tallest in the room, but occasionally you were dethroned. At 6'6", that concern is all but forgotten.
I feel like all the guys that are 6'3" and above think 6'6" is the height, and everyone who's like under 6 feet, like it's 6'1", 6'2". I think it's in that range. 6'6" feels uncomfortable. Like if you're in college, your feet are hanging off the edge of the bed. Yep. Are you shopping at the men's big and tall at that point? Maybe 6'6" is kind of really pushing it. So I totally disagree with that. 6'4", 6'3" is probably the tops for me.
Could you petition the college for a single?
Interesting.
Would you want one as a
Yes.
freshman or a sophomore in a dorm?
Sophomore, yes. Freshman, no. You got to make inroads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
There was a girl that lived on our floor when we were freshmen, but she was a sophomore, and she had a queen bed single, like blew people's minds.
Queen bed is in like brought her bed or like tied two beds together, because that's what we did. We like found some storage room and put together another bed.
I don't know if two dudes were sharing. Like they were like, "Hey, you want to put our beds together?" Like,
think about all the space
in case one of us gets diagonal.
Yeah,
blew our minds. She was actually pretty attractive. Obviously had cash. Never talked to any of us. Dated men, like grown men. Stopped by for like.
She was a dating senior person. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was a sophomore, and I think college guys in general were just out of the scope. She was really nice to all of us, but we were just like, every now and then we'd walk by if a room were open and be like, what? She has like a full-on mattress and a bed frame? Like, what is the student issued one in storage? Like, what is going on with her? She's
that feels like
I
one
still
of those
think
things
about
where your dad,
clearly.
Where you only get away with that if your dad's like donating money to the school or something. It's like, all right, we'll just throw him a bone. See, I couldn't even have I got my George Foreman grill taken during spring break because I wasn't even allowed to have that. Meanwhile, this girl's got a queen bed in her room.
Yeah, all that shit on the wall there, they're taking that
call.
down. Fire marshal doesn't want any part of that in college. Like, is that paper on the wall? It's like, oh, yeah, it was. Sorry. You guys sold it to me at the bookstore. I didn't know that we couldn't put it up.
I like 6'6", I'll be honest with you, but I don't know.
Of course you do, because you're 6'3".
Wrong.
You're 6'3"?
No.
All right.
I thought you were 6'3".
There was a time where we've talked about my back is like an accordion now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Some people made some really strong arguments that north of 6'4" is where you start getting to that problem area, though, whether it's flights, jeans, skinny jeans, young people jeans, YPJs. So
Jinkos are probably fine.
Yeah, I think you're fine there. But yeah, 6'6", there's probably more challenges. But man, you're fucking 6'6".
Yeah.
But that's like kind of, sometimes guys make that. I mean, listen, technically I'm a short person here. I'm the shortest one on the pod, but 5'10", still not that short. What's up? But like, I feel like guys that are 6'5", they make that their entire personality too. It's like, cool, I'm the tall guy. It's like, all right, well.
Wow, such a short guy thing to say. I don't
like it. Whereas super short guys don't want to make it their personality. Everyone has made it their personality for them.
Correct. We have a buddy who's 5'8", and he's definitely the shortest in the group. And he gets the Gimli jokes, and he's like, I'm average. It's the national average. It's like,
he's got stats for that reason, right?
Yeah, it's such a strange height, because we'll talk about our friend group that's in that height, and guys are like, do you know how tall this guy is, or like who's taller? It's kind of like Stanley in The Office. Like, does he have a mustache? Despite working with him forever, you're kind of like, does he not have a mustache? So then we were ranking who was shortest to tallest, like under 6 feet from that group, and no one knew anyone's height. Like, no one could figure it out. Not that everybody's supposed to have everybody's height memorized in your friend group, but there was just south of a certain number. It was like, I don't know. It was just a big stew of length or lack thereof. So I feel like there was something else that I had to say as far as the person. I think as my father is 6'5", it was obviously very frustrating for me to not.
Such a difficult
everybody
life.
Everybody thought I was going to be that big. Like growing up. And then it was like, I think this guy's 16 and hasn't hit puberty yet. So what the fuck is going on with him? And then I remember I ran into like an old coach once I was in my 20s, and it was like totally normal, but I could just tell there was this like underlying mist. And he's like, never You never got to your dad's height, did you? The conversation.
God, I haven't heard that in 10 years. Cool. Thanks.
Is he tall? Was he taller than you?
Who, the coach?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I was gonna say because maybe he was just like, rubbing your face or something. But
no,
yeah.
I could just sense the like. You were never that good. Like in Caddyshack. I just love when Chevy Chase says that to Judge Smales. My dad never liked you. All right. Crickets on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Something more updated.
I can't talk about stuff
home
anymore
and pray and then going to the fish and creek for a date. Nothing.
Nice. No, that's good. I got that one right away.
Okay. Good stuff for the singers out there.
Those guys are serious, right?
Oh, yeah.
It has. Okay. Just want to make sure.
For those that don't know, there's this country duo that's just taking over the internet right now. And it's, I don't know that I've ever seen a singer who's like technically a singer not be sure about being a singer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kyle?
No, I got you. Nailed it.
Like, are you sure you want to do this? Not because I think
you're doing it. So
good or bad. Yeah. I mean, those guys did it. They're cutting videos. Look at Cerruti. Kid number 2 on the way. He has no idea what we're talking about. This is when it goes away, buddy.
Sad.
All right. A couple more feedback emails. Don't worry, Kyle. I will respect your time. Aspect ratio. Excuse me. The aspect ratio. That's from Brian regarding Cerruti's refusal to watch The Wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been totally
still gonna do it. All right.
Misconstrued, quotes taken out of things out of context. You would think that I like insulted someone's mom or like close family member. Like I didn't
Baltimore,
say that The Wire,
up, dude.
I never said that The Wire sucked. I never said that it wasn't a good show. I just said that I tried to watch it 10 years ago. The aspect ratio threw me off, and I have never gone back to it. And people are losing their minds. Like people are genuinely angry at me, and I'm like, guys, like you could type on Reddit all you want about different things, but like I didn't say the show sucked. I just haven't seen it and I was put off when I was 25 because of the aspect ratio, and I haven't had time to pick it up, and I feel like I missed it. So maybe I just missed it.
No,
for those of us that are screenwriters, you've kind of insulted all of our moms.
Oh, here we go.
It's never too late. The one thing I'll say, it's never too late.
No, it's too late. He's not doing it. He's not doing it.
I probably won't now. Yeah, now that I've this backlash.
The Godfather 1. How far do you make it?
Oh, I like. Well, the third one obviously is not awesome, but I'm a Godfather guy.
How did you make it through it with that SD?
I watched it when I was. I mean, I guess it was probably because I watched it when I was, in my like early teens. So like it wasn't that big of a deal back in the early 2000s. I don't know.
Defending Cerruti on The Wire aspect ratio. No comps, no stats. 6'1", 210. This guy's tall. I wanted to chime in and defend Cerruti on The Wire's aspect ratio. I tried to watch it a couple years ago. I couldn't get past the aspect ratio either. It was too distracting and not pulling me in. However, I recently tried again on Max, and guess what? It's in a widescreen format ratio and looks way better. Cerruti, give it a shot. It's great. I love how they've gone back and started releasing older shows in wide format. It gives them new life. Love the pod.
That's actually a very useful email.
There we go.
Was The Sopranos first season 4x3?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was? Sure okay. Well, I guess I got over that one. I don't know. I've seen Sopranos. I don't know.
Well, good for you. Good battling through that.
Yeah. Some people call me a hero,
Yeah. All right. I don't know. We've got a lot of good ones here today.
We got time to explore the space, by the way.
We do. Okay. I don't know that I would normally do this one, but we'll just do it. Should I apply to be Big Cat's manager? What's up, guys? 5'8", 155. Can bench 185 for 6. Basketball comp, short Ben Simmons. I'll say this about shorter guys. If you decide to really focus on the arms, they're going to get huge. I've seen it firsthand. So that's something to
noted.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I do. Quick aside.
Remember, how are your arms?
Probably 2 years. Yeah, 2 years ago or so. People were telling me.
Great.
I don't know that they're bigger. And it's not really the baby thing. It's really when she's like a toddler and, she wants to be held in the morning and she's picky about things. I don't know that there's any girth there. Like, I don't know that we've gotten like a little bit bigger there on the left bicep, but it certainly feels stronger because I do hold her in my left arm, not my right arm. And I've noticed the left side getting a little bit stronger. So I poo-pooed it at first and now I don't, maybe I'm wrong.
I'm with you on it. I mean, I don't understand why doing something that's strenuous physically wouldn't make those limbs a little bit stronger. I don't know. It just seems like science to me. I beat my wife 4 out of the last 5 times in arm wrestling. You telling me it's not working?
I was waiting to the end of that sentence to see what was going.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how
phrasing.
Yeah, phrasing. All right, so writing in today for some career advice. I graduated college from a Southern school in 22. Been working in investment banking ever since. Very recently got promoted to associate, which is a nice gig, slightly less hours with a decent pay raise. Of all the guys at my job are great. We've created a pretty tight-knit group, but as you can imagine, the job can be a lot of hours at times. Recently saw an X that Big Cat is looking for an assistant. I read through the qualifications. I humbly think I would be perfect for the job. I'm well-versed in all 4 major sports, very well organized. I think my current job has prepared me well for whatever I decide to do in the future. I think it'd be a great opportunity to meet a lot of guys, maybe even Ryan one day, and do something I genuinely enjoy doing, helping one of my favorite media personalities perform his job at the highest level. The only problem is the pay. The job listing says the salary range is $65 to $75K a year. God, for his assistant or his manager? That's pretty
probably
good,
be assistant, right? Not manager.
Yeah, I think it's just. I read the job description. I actually have seen this, and it was a lot of things. It was, organizational. It was like partially social media stuff. I think it was like getting him up to date on the topics of the day, the social media trends, so he could take part. Because we know Big Cat loves a good social media trend. So it was an all encompassing
Harlem Shake. He's doing a video.
Yeah, for sure. Updated coffee memes, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's all pretty straightforward. So 65, 75K range, considerably below what I make this year, probably make around 250K. That is a pay cut with the ability to continue to grow every year. My friends and I played the game of what I would need to make for this switch to be worth it. And I think my number is a bit higher than that.
Yeah.
My question to you guys, would you leave a job you like for a job you think you would love for considerably less money? I imagine the interviews are already rolling for this opening. I imagine it's a highly coveted job. So more of a thought exercise, but genuinely curious on the thoughts. So look, he also added that he found our show through the Part of My Take life advice one that we did. Ryan, how could you prefer chicken breast to thighs? Kyle didn't understand you at first, but after listening a bunch, I think you're a super cool guy. Cerruti, I think we gave you truth serum. It would come out that you really don't like Big Cat. So maybe think about this in a vacuum.
No. I do like Big Cat.
That's true.
That's like 2 emails in one.
There's a lot going on in that.
Damn.
Like, which one should we focus on?
So he graduated college 3 years ago, and you're already making $250,000. Bank the money.
Fast track, dude. Yeah.
I think you think life is too easy, and you're like, should I take a 70% pay cut? No, dude. That's you've kind of hit the jackpot here if that's your salary. I mean, unless you just hate your job. I mean, I don't know what it would be.
He doesn't though. Yeah, he said that everyone's great. He's enjoying life and money and all that stuff. I mean, it's not like it costs $50 to submit an application. You'll feel better just submitting it, right? He probably already did by the time he sent this, right? But I couldn't take it. I couldn't take that job, and that's kind of the going rate. Like when Ryan was talking about the salary, he was like, "Wow, it's almost a little high to be like somebody's assistant in this type of industry." It's just if it's your first gig, it's just not going to be good for a while. Pay-wise, so
the fact that it already bothers you is a turnoff.
Yeah, you might be acting a little different than you think you are once you're like, and what all this for what? Yeah, I don't know. Especially having a taste. If you didn't have a taste and you just were fresh graduating and you're like, I don't know what direction I want to go. Cool, man.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, you're going to be on like some live stream that they're doing, and like you're going to have to make like 14 free throws in a row. And you're being berated by someone
or something, right?
Yeah. Like I see, there's a gap here after you left this firm. What did you do? Like, let
me show you some clips.
I pissed my pants
in front of 50,000 people, though.
Yeah,
but I'd like to get back. After a year or two of that, I'd like to get back in investment banking.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking about here is that this guy deep down wants to be on the air, which way more people want to be, especially with the fact that, like, if I were in my early 20s and wanted to be on the air, I'd look around the land. Like, when I started, it was kind of like, how the hell is anyone, like, how do you get started? And again, the irony being that I didn't really even want to be on the air when I first started, but you just looked around and you're like, this is impossible. Now it feels like everything is possible. And so, Cerruti and I have talked a lot about it in the past where, you're working with certain people behind the scenes and then you realize, like, this person doesn't want to be behind the scenes at all. Like, they want to be the scene. And so if you are, deep down, somebody who watches some of this stuff, be like, oh, I'd be funny. Maybe you would be. So I'm not, dumping. I don't know you. So you have to kind of weigh that into the pricing of all of this. Is this actually something where you think, well, if I were part of content and it would be a lot of fun and this is kind of secretly what I've always really wanted to do, then yeah, I would say pursue it. Your odds probably aren't great. I imagine there's a ton of applicants for this, but the fact that you're already a little hesitant, and it's not like you sent us this email in where you said you hated your job. So I would strongly advise you to it was a funny email, but
I'd send it. I think you'd feel better just sending it.
Sure.
At least you're not like, man, what if I did do it? So send it.
But now that we read this email and Big Cat's going to hear that you asked about, well, not that the pay thing, but he'll probably ask me, hey, can you give me the name? And then I will, and then you won't get it. So, or I don't know. All right. Switching it up. Haunted house purchase. Hey, gang. 31 years old, 5'10", 153, ran a marathon once, non-Disney, so not sure it counts. Oregon, what are you, like 6'2"?
Come on.
Am I 6'2"?
We know the answer to this.
I'm 5'6".
That's right.
That's right, he says.
I didn't like the tone on that. That's right.
Yeah, I didn't. That felt, yeah.
I know, I forgot.
That's
I legitimately
right.
forgot. Then you said it, because we did this already, didn't we?
We did, yeah. It did surprise. We all were surprised that he was 5'6".
He's just, I don't know. Maybe his aspect ratio is off.
There you go.
Sorry, man.
Thanks.
We'll check in later. Yeah, we'll check in later.
Good luck. Heard Big Cat's looking for an intern.
Holy shit.
Basketball comp, Firkin Korkmaz. Sorry about the swearing. Same hair, beard, 3-point shooting percentage, but only when on Adderall. Make percentage drops to single digits without PEDs. My wife and I, Adderall. Never even thought about that. My wife and I live in a large Midwest city due to the birth of our daughter a few months ago. We're now following the natural path of life and making the big move to the suburbs. We spent the last year or so researching surrounding towns and neighborhoods. We found the perfect neighborhood for raising our kids. Top public schools, in-state, walkable, close by parks, close proximity to both our families to help with childcare. Man, it looks like you've checked all the boxes. In researching this neighborhood, there's only about 12 to 20 houses that typically go to market a year, so very limited, of course, competitive inventory. My wife and I recently saw a home we really loved and are contemplating putting in an offer. It has it all, fully remodeled inside, which is a huge perk for both of us to try to avoid any near-term projects and the headache of a contractor twice your size blowing up the first floor bathroom while you have to bite your tongue and pretend it didn't happen. Great living room for hosting work colleagues for a single Coors Light, a well-kept golf course with $10 weekday greens fees right across the street. I bet they'd even accept Kyle's payment of a cooler of beers. It even has a basketball hoop in the driveway, so my offspring can learn the same Midwest signature move I did growing up, the strictly right-handed dribble and layup. All right, here's a dilemma. We found out through some back-channeling that the owner's father passed away in the house a few years back. This is not information.
Ding, ding, ding.
You have to disclose in the state we are looking. All right, so, hey, Cerruti, kind of our side door real estate guy here. Is that something you have to disclose? Somebody dies in the house in some
There's
states?
certain circumstances, right? There's like, if it's a murder, but
that.
if it's a death, if it's just a no foul play or something.
So I think it is a state by state thing, but I will say our last house, the previous owner definitely died in the house, and we were not told that. But they were old.
How did you feel?
I don't care. We would joke around that it was like maybe kind of haunted because like our dog would always kind of look in the corner and be like, oh, it's just like the ghost kind of talking or something or doing its thing. But it didn't bother me at all.
It's a fun game.
Yeah, it really didn't bother me at all. We kind of knew that because like one room in the house was zoned for a different like heating situation. Clearly it was like an elderly thing. and we were buying it from their siblings. So like, I think you put two and two together, you kind of figure out what happened. Didn't bother me at all, but they did not have to disclose that in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a murder. Like if it's a murder, you got to say. But I think if it's just a
It's a murder.
know.
good old fashioned,
Yeah, you just Google a house and address exactly. Isn't Bill's house haunted?
Any murders
he
here?
says, yeah.
Yeah, I think Bill thinks his house is haunted.
I can see that though. In any house he lived in. Like, I think there's something going on here. Top 7 spirits. Yeah. I mean, come on. Who are we talking about here? Like, I don't know. It's something with the Aztecs, I think. For me, this immediately moved the house out of consideration. There's too much of a chance this house has a spirit, and I'm not sure I could ever look past it or not think about it. My wife, on the other hand, has more of a Bill Simmons mentality. Didn't expect that. And this doesn't scare her at all. I don't know if that's a Bill Simmons mentality. Maybe it doesn't scare. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard his ghost coverage. If anything, it's a perk. Her initial reaction was great. Now we have a great negotiation piece to offer at an even lower price, end quote. Which is probably true, as we found out the owner does not want this info public. I, on the other hand, still lose sleep sometimes at night watching Paranormal Activity 15 years ago. I have no bigger and irrational fear than the paranormal. So what would you do? This house checks all the boxes for my wife, and I, except for the ghost factor. Could you look past it for your dream home, especially if you get an even better deal with the info? We may not find anything comparable in the near future and need to make a move sooner than later. I'll hang up and listen. Additional context, if interested, sure, we're here. The home has been on the market for nearly 3 months, much longer than homes of this price range quality typically do for the area. The person who was deceased died of natural causes and was in hospice care at the time, so likely a peaceful passing. Not sure if this would change your perception of potential spirit and its motives. We also found out my cousin's in-laws live next door, which is big news. They already reached out to say they'd love to help out with the little one as they make amazing home-cooked meals
so good
of their nationality, which is definitely something we couldn't find in our new neighborhood. Very organized email. All right, so go ahead, Cerruti. I mean, it sounds like you're on record for saying you've already done it. Potentially don't care.
Yeah, I do you guys believe in ghosts?
Not really, no.
I mean, there might be some stuff going on. I just haven't spent a lot of time and will not spend a lot of time in my life worrying about it.
I'm not willing to write it off. I think it's kind of unlikely. You see a couple orbs in a picture and you're like, yeah, it's interesting coincidence there. I'm not really afraid of ghosts. If I was, I watched, what was it? Nosferatu last night. So I'm like, kind of like a little bit on edge. Like last night going to sleep was a little bit
extended cut dropped. Yeah.
I think I just saw the regular one, but it was good. But yeah, it was like, if I was like really afraid of those things, like it would probably bother me. And it sounds like that's what our guy, he's like a little bit sensitive to the paranormal activity thing. My thought would be, it's kind of cool if you own the haunted house on the block, though, isn't it? Like, especially, I guess if it's actually haunted and it's causing your, if it's like a legit, paranormal activity situation, probably not going to end super well. But like, when's the last time you actually heard of someone that you knew that had that situation go down? So I think it's kind of cool to live in the haunted house, the perceived haunted house in the neighborhood. And if you're getting a sick deal and it's everything you wanted, and what's the worst that happens? You just sell it in 6 months if it's like really a disaster. I mean, you take a little bit of a loss, I guess, but somebody's going to buy the house. Seems like a nice house. So
what's
I think
the worst that could happen?
What, you get possessed? Like, all right.
Yeah, that'd be the worst, probably.
Seems unlikely, but
Yeah.
Kyle?
I mean, I'm the only one here who hasn't bought a house. I mean, maybe I wouldn't be surprised to know if Wargon like closed at a house his sophomore year somewhere in Orlando. Like we would just learn that about him. But I think he's an apartment guy in New York right now. But I don't really know. I think I would just be looking for an edge when it comes to making a big purchase like that. So this would be all green lights for me, especially walking across the street to the golf course and, what do you say? He's got a hoop and all. It's perfect. It's perfect. Neighbors next door, built-in childcare community you got there. This is A1 for me. I would be like, this is all green lights. Your wife's into it. You don't have to do it. You're the one who has to like be convinced. Just be convinced. Convince yourself. You can convince yourself of anything.
I really want to hear Wargon talk about ghosts. So can you, I have no idea where it's going to go as always, but if you could turn this back on, where are you on ghost and home properties?
I've talked about this with my fiance already. We're in. Like if someone dies in the house, like that's the one I want. Just because it makes it cheaper. Makes it cheaper. And then if it turns out that it actually is haunted, I feel like you've 10x your investment because someone's going to want that.
Well, yeah, but you just said you'd get it for a lower price, and now you get the fully haunted
Okay,
experience.
all right.
and
If
how you
it
think
turns
the
out
place
that
is.
it is
Some holes.
haunted, you're going to be able to sell it to some weirdos for a lot more.
Like if you can get a certificate from some.
Yeah.
But by the way, I'm
paranormal
sure
guy.
you could get some lady to show up to your house and be like, "Oh yeah,
This is a problem. It's going to take
There
a
you go.
few sessions. Yeah.
No, it's just like I just need $75 for a certificate that this place is officially haunted, and then it would be some fake thing. All right, well, thanks for that. Look, man, some people really don't like ghosts, and I can understand like his trepidation, but it sounds like this house checks every single possible box, and even some that you didn't even think that you needed checked. I don't know. I mean, if it's been on the market for longer, because people kind of know, you might want to watch out. Like, because if I were selling a house and my father had just died in it, and a potential buyer were like, "Well, your dad died in it, so here's $100,000 less." I may just out of spite,
Screw you.
just say, I don't care how much longer it takes for me to sell this house. I'm not selling it to you because you're going to try to use that against me. I mean, look, what you're going to do, what your realtor is going to say to them, because if you tell your realtor, "Hey, can we offer less because the father died in the house?" Your realtor is going to tell their realtor, who then may or may not tell the homeowner, but they're all just going to talk to each other the entire time. So I would go for it just because it's not going to freak me out that much. There's a really good chance you move in and like nothing happens, right? Like, how high is that percentage? The other thing too that I've noticed,
Really
when
high.
people-
I'd say high 90s.
yeah, high 90s. It does feel like high 90s is the number here. Because the other thing though is that people that are super into the ghost deal, like I have a friend, Tim, who bought a house, and it's a much older house in a really cool neighborhood. And he was so excited to show it to me, and then told me about all the ghost stuff. But he also is a ghost guy. He watches all those terrible shows. Like those shows are always so confusing, and you're
Did you
never
move that
quite
chair?
sure. Yeah, right. Like
Come
what just happened? Oh man, I'm getting crazy activity reads over here. Yeah, there could have been a death. Yeah, I agree. And then he's just like, "What the fuck is this show?"
We've never seen these levels before.
Yeah,
Yes, dude. Nice,
There you
nice.
go. Perfectly said. I know that. And by the way, as an aside on these shows in general, Alone is a great show. I just watched an episode. The guy made it one night. If you can only make it one night signing up for Alone, signing up for, yeah, right. You should have to pay some kind of fine.
Like a restocking fee.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just could not believe the guy made it a night and then tapped out. And he was like it wasn't.
What was it? Like bugs or something? Like just.
I missed his daughter.
Oh.
Started bawling his eyes out. Okay.
Day one.
I always think it'd be kind of fun until like they wake up in the morning and they've just been eaten alive at night, and it's like just 19 more nights of this. I was like, that
19.
alone. Well, I don't know how long they stay, but I just couldn't imagine like the foreseeable future and just be like, well, hope it's not this bad when I wake up tomorrow. Like aside from being hungry and finding getting out of the rain or whatever, just the laying there for bugs at night, depending on the bugs, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a tough first night, but you couldn't go back to your village, your town, city, wherever you're from, and then be like, "Yeah, I made it one night."
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Like I understand, even without having kids, like you're going to miss your kids, but what did you think you were signing up for? You couldn't handle that one night? I would be, because then I think about how I would do on it, and I wouldn't do well. I'd get so upset that I'm going to lose all of this weight. I'd come out of that thing like 180 pounds. I'd be fine with the Alone thing. Maybe no one would be more prepared for that than me. I wouldn't miss anyone. So I wouldn't
Not even
tap
Cerruti?
out. Yeah, maybe Cerruti. But I wouldn't
Day
tap
4?
out. Yeah. Looking at a picture of Cerruti crying, being like, "Come pick me up.
Yeah, I can't do this.
I can't do it." But yeah,
I think it'd be more like Wizards Pistons are on. I cannot miss this for the third day in a row.
I actually went to watch the Pistons game last night, and because it was the last one on the docket, and then Harden was just a free throw fest. And I go, "I'm going to watch this in the morning. I got to fast forward through this. I cannot watch Harden take 20 free throws." I know he had 50. I know they won. Congrats to the Clippers. But watching Harden take 20 free throws with all the bullshit, I was like, do not make this a live 2-hour plus experience. Cut down on the experience because you know how frustrated and upset you're going to get. I think ghost people see ghosts more than non-ghost people. You know what I'm saying? They want to see stuff. Hey, dude, was that chair there before? Just like the TV shows. And if you're not a ghost person, you're probably never going to have any of those experiences. So I would say go for it. And if
anybody else
haunted,
confused though?
Get out.
There's one element of this that doesn't make any sense though. He's saying that it's been on the market for 3 months, long, whatever, way longer than anything else in that neighborhood. The price may be potentially going down, but people don't. He's the one that found out about the ghost, and nobody else knows about that. Wouldn't that suggest that there's some other problem with the house?
We don't know that there is a ghost. We know there's a potential ghost scenario
that the current owner doesn't want to be made public.
That the father died in the house.
Yeah. So other people don't know that. So that wouldn't be the reason the house is sitting there for 3 months.
Now you're talking like a real estate agent. Why is this thing still on the market? Or does everybody actually already know? Okay. Good luck with the ghosts and with your mortgage paperwork. Okay. Which is more horrifying than any ghost. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Suri. Thanks to Oregon. Thanks to Jonathan Frias. You can check us out. Full video episodes on Spotify. Of course, on YouTube. We're going to have a new Mail It In Friday for you coming up next week. And as always, subscribe. Ryen Russillo Podcast. Bring your Spotify. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.